Welcome to the Amazon Seller Central training. In this section, we'll be covering how to manage returns. So after the customer orders a product from you, he may want to return it either because the item is damaged or defective, or he no longer needs it. You can go through the Amazon returns policy also from the help pages. First, let's understand the returns workflow. So if a customer wants to return a product, he needs to first go to the return support center and place a return request from there. Now the seller has two options which he can configure from the settings section. He can either auto approve the return if the if the return is matching the Amazon return policy, then he can have an option to auto approve the return. Every return that comes in gets auto approved. And the other option is that he will have to manually approve a return. Now, if it's an auto-approved return, then the process which the customer needs to follow is that he'll have to take a printout of a return merchandise authorization label and a return mailing label. Now, customer will have to place the return merchandise authorization label inside the box which he's sending back to the seller, and he'll have to affix the return mailing label outside the box and then send the package to the seller. Now, one thing you need to understand is that the customer is paying for the return himself. The seller is not bearing the cost of the return. Now, after you have received the product, you'll have to issue either a full refund or a partial refund based on the condition of the item. Now suppose it's a manually approved return. You choose the other option where you manually want to approve every return that comes in. So you can either authorize a return or you can deny a return based on the particular return. If you think that the return request is okay, you can authorize it, and then the same process gets followed where the customer will have to take the printouts and accordingly send the package. If suppose you happen to deny a particular return, then Amazon will send a message to the customer with a closure reason. Now, one thing that you'll have to take a note of is that if an order qualifies for the return as per the Amazon policy, and if seller does not respond within 2 business days or he denies the return request, then customer can file an A to Z guarantee claim with Amazon regarding the return. Now we'll go back to the Seller Central account. Now, if you want to view your returns, then you have to go under Orders to Manage Return section. First, we'll go to the Return Settings section where you can configure the returns. So, like we saw in the PPT, there are two options over here. One is that I want to authorize each request, wherein every request that comes in, you will have an option to either authorize or deny the request. Or if it's meeting the Amazon policy, then Amazon will automatically authorize the those requests. So you can select either of the options. Then is the return merchandise authorization number settings, the RMA settings, where you can either select the first option, where you want Amazon to generate a return merchandise authorization number. Now you can either select the first option where Amazon can automatically generate the RMA number for you once the return is authorized, or you can get an option to provide it yourself every time the return is authorized. So for that you have to select the second option. Then just save the settings. Now once we are back on the Manage Returns page, if you want to look for the returns that have come, we can either select from the options on the left side. If we want to see the authorization required accounts, then we can just select this option, or if we want to see which are the completed or closed accounts, then we can check them from here. Then you'll have an option to select the date range here with a maximum of the last 365 days. Then when the returns come here, you'll have 4 options here on the right side. One is authorize request. So if you think that the request made by the customer is okay, you can go for the authorization. Now when you select this option, will ask you whether you want Amazon to generate a RMA number from their side or if you want to provide it yourself. So suppose I keep the first option only. Then next is you'll have to confirm your return address. This is the return address which you have already configured in your settings section, yeah, under account info. So if you want to use a different return address, you can mention it from here. Or if you want the customers to go through any return instructions, you can select, you can just type it in here and then just authorize request. Suppose you are not okay with the request that has come in, you do not think that the right request is made by the customer, you can also close the request. When you're closing a request, then just select the appropriate option from here as to why you want to close the request. And if there is any message to the buyer, you can type it in here. And then just click on close request. The next option is issue refund. Now when the product has already been received by you, you can go for a refund. Now there are 2 options here, either a full refund or a partial refund. Now suppose the product has not come back to you in the right condition, you can also go for a partial refund, otherwise you can go for a full refund. In full refund, basically first you have to select the reason for refund. Suppose it's buyer cancelled. Then the amount and all will come over here as to what is the total amount for the order and what is the refund amount. If you want to give any concessions to the customer as a goodwill, as a goodwill gesture, if you want to pass on some extra amount to the customer for, suppose, going through the hassle of returning the product to you, you can give him a shipping concession or any other concession also. So this will have a maximum cap of a certain amount. So you can just mention the concessions over here and then submit the full refund. In case you're going for a partial refund, there's a similar process. But for that, for every field, you'll have to mention the amount that you are going to be refunding. So once you have entered these values over here for product, shipping and return, shipping concession or other concessions, and then just submit the partial refund. Once you've clicked on this, then the refund process initiates and the customer is paid back that amount. Another option is where you can contact the buyer. So suppose you want to contact the buyer regarding any issue as to why he is returning the product. If you want to understand from him, then you can click on the contact buyer link and you can communicate with him. We would encourage you to make all communications with the buyer only through the contact buyer link so that the issue can be tracked through Amazon. Once it's mutually agreed between you and the buyer that's a genuine return, then you can click on the first button here to authorize your request. So this is all about the return and refund section, that how to manage your return and refunds. Thank you so much for listening to us.